It's the season of red and blue now. The United States is finally going to elections today. It's finally going to polling today. Even though two-thirds of the voters of 2016, the number, two-thirds of them, they have voted by the mail ballots because of the coronavirus. There is still a lot of hope from the voters who will be voting today, especially for President Donald Trump, who's counting on his Republican base, who's counting on the silent majority to come out in huge numbers and vote in a few hours from today. But it's now starting to become very certain that this election, it won't conclude the next morning, it won't conclude tomorrow morning. It will go on beyond that. Because everyone, even the Biden supporters now, even the Trump supporters, they're expecting a very messy election in that sense. Now, why are they expecting a messy election? Is that what we're going to discuss? When I say messy, what do I really mean by messy? Do I mean booth capturing, as it used to happen in Bihar, which also voted today? Not really. These are different aspects to a messy election in the United States. Now, you've always heard of the popular vote, as we do in India. Then there's electoral college, which you have heard in the United States. This is where it all starts getting messy, and I'll delve into the aspects one by one. Well, what happened in 2016 when Donald Trump won? Interestingly and ironically, Hillary Clinton got more votes. She got 2.1% more votes than Donald Trump, but Donald Trump had a lead in the Electoral College by 14.5%. If you go back to 2012, Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, Barack Obama had a healthy 3.90 vote share lead. In 2008, Barack Obama had a 7.2% lead in the popular vote that was cast. But in 2000, when George Bush came in after Bill Clinton, he actually lost the popular vote by 0.5%. And in fact, ended up winning the Electoral College by just 0.93%. That election went to the Supreme Court. That's a different story though. But what I really emphasize here is that the popular vote margins, they've always been very, very small in the United States. So the popular vote, even though it doesn't matter in the grander scheme of things, it does matter when it comes to deciding the Electoral College. Because in the United States, the people are not voting for the president directly or for the senator directly. They're voting in their 50 states for the Electoral College members who then go to Washington in December and the process happens. The 538, 270 is needed to win. So this is where it is. Now the margins are very narrow when it comes to the Biden-Trump, and this is where it gets messy. Now yesterday night, this is the second aspect, the campaign, the psychological war which is brewing already. Yesterday night, Trump's campaign manager, he made 3 attacks on the Biden camp. He said that Biden has not gained in the battleground states as he was expected to, and they are going to blame the delay in the postal ballots. When the election results come out, the Democrats are going to blame the delay in mail ballots, and they're going to deny Trump a victory. The red you might see on the screen, that would be called a red mirage, because they will contest the election saying that the mail ballots have not arrived, which could tilt the election in the favor of Biden. And lastly, he said that Biden will not concede the election. It's going to be a messy affair. It's going to be prolonged, it will go to the court, and so forth. Interestingly, the Biden campaign has the same to say about Donald Trump. Earlier yesterday, they were saying that Trump will declare an early victory on Thursday, which Trump refuted, of course. But they have also said that Trump will attempt to steal the election. So on both the sides, there is already the psychological war brewing that either side will attempt to steal the election, the other side will not concede the election. There will be frauds and delay in mail ballots and so on. So what is the reality really? Now, the delay in mail ballots, and this is an important aspect because understand, of the 2/3 votes casted in 2016, of the 2/3 votes cast in 2016, those are the numbers that have already voted by mail ballot. Now, you can attribute it to the coronavirus, you can attribute it to secrecy or whatever. People don't want to stand in queues. Perhaps the election system in the United States is not as efficient as it is in India, where you can come out after 1 hour after voting. There, people have to stand in queues. Nevertheless, 2/3 of the number that voted in 2016, they have send their mail ballots. But here's a problem, and this was a very interesting story Wall Street Journal carried out on October 30th. It said that in 7 million mail ballots had not been returned in the 13 most competitive states. This was the status on October 30th. 7 million ballots had not been returned in the most 13 competitive states. Now, this is why the number is important. The same 13 competitive states mentioned in the story gave Trump a victory by 2 million votes in 2016. So the 7 million ballots that have not been returned, that's an important number, because 1/3 of this number, rather less than 1/3 of this number in these states gave Trump a victory in 2016. If I go to states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Florida, they were won narrowly in 2016. And in some cases by a few thousand votes. So the delay in ballots becomes critical. So either side, if they're losing these battleground states, they could contest the election saying that the mail ballots have not been delivered, they have not been counted. Now, the problem with mail-in ballots is that, like some states, also like Colorado, they mail a mail ballot to every eligible voter. Then there are states like Florida and Arizona, they also offer ballot drop boxes. What happens really is, for instance, a state sends you the mail ballot. You might or might not choose to vote through it. Some people may accept the ballot, but they may go to the voting booth on November 3. So that leads to an overestimation of mail ballots as well. So it's not like the tallying of the mail ballots will always be accurate. Some people may want to have the mail ballot because it will vary from state to state. But some people might say, okay, hold on. I would rather go to the election booth and vote. I don't want to use the mail ballot. Even though most of the Democrats have used it, I don't want to. So this leads to an overestimation. So even if tomorrow a side contests that no, the mail ballot is a problem, they cannot be entirely sure. The second aspect is the spoilage. Now, with every mail ballot as there is, this chances of spoilage. But if you go by 538.com, a very reputed poll forecasting site, though even they got 2016 wrong, they say that the chances of spoilage range between 1 to 3%. And when it comes to polling or voting on the day of the polls, the chances of a voter not turning up are somewhere in the neighborhood of 5%. But the problem of spoilage is that if even 3% of the mail ballots are spoiled in a very battleground, in a very narrow state, that could hand over a victory to Trump very quickly. Now, these are the numbers if you go by. Now, let's come to a state called Pennsylvania, which is being touted as the decisive state when it comes to these elections. There are states other like Florida. Now, a lot of people have said that if Trump doesn't win Florida, he's not winning the US elections at any cost. But if you look at the popular vote, now we've seen all the surveys, we've seen all the forecasts, and even though we are skeptical about them, given what happened in 2016, there's some interesting aspects that need to be noted. And I'll put this chart on the screen as well. Now, if Biden has a vote margin which is greater than 6 to 7%, the chances of a Trump victory are less than 1%. However, if the vote margin is between 4 and 5%, Trump's chances increase by 10%. However, if Biden does not get more than 3% vote share in the lead, and in fact, it means that if Biden doesn't get more than 3% of the vote share than Donald Trump, Trump might sway the electoral college. He may win the elections again. So this is where the mail ballots become important, because again, the people who have voted earlier, most of them are said to be Democrats, as a lot of media reports have reported. So this entire popular vote, though it may not mean anything in the grander scale, it will matter a lot when it comes to a narrow election, and most people are forecasting a narrow election. So from 6 to 7% lead in the popular vote, if Biden gets it, well and good, it will be a landslide election. Trump will have to concede. But if it comes down to, let's say, 3 or 4%, or rather 2 and 3%, then there will be a problem, and that is where the election gets very, very messy. Now, North Carolina, for example, another battleground state, the lead for Biden was 0.8%, a very narrow lead. Georgia, with 16 electoral college votes, it had a lead of plus 1.9% for Biden. For Pennsylvania, it was 4.8% and narrowing. So you get to know that the election is being fought on very narrow margins, and the case for mail ballots could complicate matters in the future. That's one aspect. So how are the states preparing for this messy election? Already, a a lot of stores in New York, in Manhattan, where the Trump Tower is also located, they have boarded up because they saw the kind of demonstrations, the kind of violent protests, which Joe Biden called peaceful, interestingly. They actually went on a rampage. There was looting, there was arsoning, there was also some rioting. So already stores have boarded up on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. In Washington, D.C., people are taking care to board up all the luxury stores so that if there is any rioting or any demonstration of that sort by either side, people are prepared. So even people are anticipating a very rowdy election result if it goes down to the narrow margin. And all it will take is Biden's vote margin lead to come down to 2 to 3% than the projected 6 to 7%. And as we saw in 2016, while Hillary Clinton was projected to win 3.2% more votes than Donald Trump, it came down to 2.1 and she lost the elections. But again, if it comes down to a narrow election, which it will, because a lot of Republicans are also talking about the shy Donald Trump voter, the voter who's not voicing his support for Donald Trump, the silent majority, but is going to come out in huge numbers today and vote for President Donald Trump. If that happens, we'll have a very narrow election, and there are chances tomorrow this time, America would be staring at a huge question mark when it comes to the next caretaker of the Oval Office. Now, the odds of that happening are quite low. Of course, the odds of a tie or a narrow margin, or the like 2000, the election going to the court, is very low. But the stakes involved for everyone, from the Democrats to the Republicans and the American citizens, are very, very high. And this is why one hopes the election does not get messy, as many are certain of getting it now. Thank you.